Okay, hey, but into another episode of On Point EDC. Today we have a really awesome review for you from the brand Three Rivers Manufacturing, or TRM. A little about them: they produce small batch production folders manufactured and assembled in the USA. In terms of the type of knife, I consider this an EDC folding utility knife. Some key characteristics and design, which you're looking for something within this space. Of course, you're going to want that pocketable size and that versatile blade shape. This is their Neutron 2 with the titanium 3D milled scales, and it's essentially an American-made everyday carry pocket knife with a distinct style, offering a strong combination of value and specifications. You can get this particular model directly from them for $362 direct. This was a sample that was sent in and supplied by the brand, so big shout out to TRM for supporting the channel. I have to say, this thing has been very, very impressive, although not perfect. I think, wow, it is definitely an amazing first impression. You guys know I'm really big on supporting USA made, knife making, and TRM definitely is representing that space extremely well here. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, now before we dive into this particular knife, quick customary wristwatch check. Today I have my titanium Flight Master automatic, and the reason why I felt like it would be a good pairing, of course, not just because of the titanium and the tool like nature, but also it's one of those if you know type of pieces. If you know about Seiko, then you see something like this, it excites you. If you know about the Flight Master, that's something. If you know about mechanical automatic chronographs, then this is the type of stuff that'll excite you, and other folks may not know, right? Same here. If you know about TRM, you know how good their stuff is, you know how rare their stuff is, and the level of scale and small batch goodness that's baked into every one of these, then it's something that really excites you. And if you don't know, then it's not necessarily going to be something that's going to jump out at you. Now, I really like the look of this piece, so I did reach out to TRM and see if they were interested in a feature, and they very kindly obliged. Now, some specs here. This is made out of Crucible CPM 20CV, an American blade steel. I mean, come on, guys, it's just fantastic. Thin drop point kind of leaf blade shape there. High flat grind, and so it is very, very slicey. Decent amount of belly there. Stone washed finish, very sharp out of box. Nice little finger choil that's there as well. If you do want to really choke up on it, this titanium is textured and contoured. It does have a nested liner lock, as you can see. So when I say nested, that just means that the liners aren't flush with the scales. They're actually inset inside of the scales for a much cleaner look. It does have a deep carry pocket clip, which is also in titanium, not stainless steel. A lot of times you see a spring clip like this on a titanium knife, and it ends up being a steel clip. In this case, it is also titanium and deep carry. It also does have the triple standoffs, which I would imagine have something to do with Three Rivers, right? The kind of rules of three. In terms of the overall length, about 7.2 inches is what I get. 3-inch blade, about 4.1 inches while it's closed. And the weight is about 3.28 ounces, which isn't super lightweight, but for the size of this knife, it's very, very nice. Now, when I say size, let's get some comparables here. So one that I think very common is going to be the Delica 4, and the Delica, this of course has been modified a bit, but that's not the point of this video. But I did want to show you guys it has a very similar footprint to something like a Delica. And on the other side of Delicas, which I love, of course, would be something like my mini grip, and in this case a Doug Ritter mini grip that's been also modified. And look at that. In terms of size, very, very similar. Closed, open. I mean, that 3-inch blade, 4-inch handle, 7-inch overall just fits really well within that everyday kind of space. And of course, hey, a little bit more robust. And you can kind of insert that to the value here, because you're not having to do a bunch of modifications, let's say, to make this super robust. But those are pretty old models, but something that's a little bit, I'd say, more contemporary that a lot of folks might be able to compare size-wise. Jazzed up mini grip, and you can see this is the full size mini grip, not the smaller one. It's a little bit smaller than that, but it has a very similar cutting edge there in terms of the length. Slightly, you know, this is going to be more traditional drop points, but when you look at these, you know, in terms of being a slicey cutting tool, guys, look at the thinness. Very, very nice, especially because you do still get a very robust handle, which for, of course, the bug out, at least out of the box, is not a very robust handle at all. So I think that's pretty nice that you do get that combination. And you guys can see in terms of other knives here, you know, where, hey, they didn't necessarily have the handle, you spend a little bit more money to just get that better purchase, better shape, better aesthetics. Although you do add a good amount of weight, you are going to get, again, you know, I feel more improved ergonomics, and the ergonomics on this are very nice. I love the organic shape here. You can see very simple, almost kind of like a Ken Onion kind of leak style in terms of the organic kind of curvature that comes. But of course, this is going to be a lot more premium. So this thing is sweet, guys. Check out, I'll just do a couple different grasps on it here, just so you guys can see, you know, what types of cutting tasks you might be able to do. This feels very, very nice in hand. And I have to say, from a utility, from a functionality standpoint, very nice. Of course, this type of clip, it's meant, you know, really to help in terms of stowage, right? But in the hand, it's actually not, you know, super hot spotty, which I think is nice that they've, you know, considering how much space there is here. And that's where I'll get into a little bit of a critique. I do feel like this is probably higher than it needs to be in terms of the thickness, like how much gap there is there. Realistically, you're not going to be, you know, wearing pants that are going to be that thick. And if you are, the ramp on here is a bit shallow to be ramping over something like that. So because there's extra room, though, you'll be able to just pinch this and kind of lift it to get it over your pant pocket, you know, or wherever you're going to stow it on a pack or something like that. If it's thick, it's nice to have that space. And I will say, because of its thinner profile, having that, it does brace in and fill the hand nicely from an ergonomic standpoint. But I will say, just aesthetically, it's kind of an open space there. And then again, if you do have pants that are thick enough to require this much clearance, that ramp is a little bit short and a little bit, you know, not steep enough to be able to accommodate for that. So I would say, you know, if I was going to be looking at future iterations, I'd probably want to see this come down and, you know, have a little bit less gap there. And then also improve the ramp by having it just so it can slide in, because this has a great amount of tension on it, which is fantastic. You want there to be tension on the clip so that your knife doesn't go anywhere. But I just think right now it's not necessarily optimized. Completely serviceable, yes, but just not quite optimized. Now, getting into some of the thoughts, of course, it fills the hand very well, very thin profile, very reminiscent of something like a Benchmade bug out, but with a more organic, you know, overall look in terms of the lines here. I love the curves, again, kind of like a grown-up Kershaw leak style of design. Now, the action is very smooth and snappy. It does have phosphor bronze washers, which means from a functional and a maintenance standpoint, very nice, very, very smooth. It's not going to be like fall shut type of smoothness, right? But it's also going to be ultra consistent because of those phosphor bronze washers. Also, there's less points of failure if you want to field strip this or something like that. Less things to lose, less things to maintain. And if you ever just want to polish up those washers, you can get some really insane, you know, types of action. Yeah, I mean, think of something like a Chris Reeve Sabenza, right? They're famously on phosphor bronze washers, so it's not necessarily just like some cheaper option. It is definitely a choice to have something that is very slim, very solid, and just offers you that real slow roll capable, just smooth like glass action there. Very nice. Except You can even flick it, which, you know, I'd say out of the box, a lot of Sebenzas can't necessarily do well. You're going to, especially because of the thumb studs. Here you do have another point, something interesting, very unique thumb studs where they actually leave a space for a gasket. If you wanted to put like a rubber gasket there, it would feel really nice. I don't think you really need it as long as you keep kind of the angle you use to engage it more pressing on the top. If you're coming from the side angle, I think because of how thin the pillar is towards the top there, you might find some discomfort there. You know, if you're fidgeting with it and you do it enough times, you know, you might get a bit of, it might get a little hot on that portion of your thumb. But I think without it, you're totally fine. You just, you know, again, more of a I guess a deliberate flick from the top versus down low, and you can hear that action is, ooh, very nice. Can you misfire it? Yeah, I mean, if you can just, it's a little slow. I didn't misfire it there, but there's times when it might come out a little bit, and again, that's because of the nature of the tight tolerance, the smoothness, and yeah, if they put it on bearings, it would have like a lot more of that kind of modern drop shut feel. Here you're getting more of that traditional, very well put together, tight tolerance type of feel, and it's probably what you would expect from an American produced knife, at least one that has been very well received. I can't say just because it's made in America that it'll be good, but I would say a lot of those values that you find in, you know, other American made knives and, you know, from those makers, you know, there's a lot of commonalities in terms of just the attention to detail, right? The little contours, those little ornate things that come together, blending form and function, right? You see, of course, how it's going to be thinner around this portion and shallower in terms of the grip, whereas it's going to extend here, and it just makes it feel more comfortable. And then, of course, yeah, where you're trying to grip it is you're going to get that grippage there. Could there be some jimping, something like that up here? Sure. But, you know, they do have, of course, the liners a bit exposed up on this portion. I don't think it needs the jimping, to be honest, but, you know, it would be, I don't know, some people might like that. Some jimping here, maybe a little jimping here. I will say another thing in terms of in pocket, this is very flat. Again, it's thin here. In hand, it feels a little thicker because you do have this, but of course, when that's in your pocket, this is going to be on the outside of the pocket. This is going to be what's inside, which is very thin, very unobtrusive. I will say, when you do have this in your pocket and you're reaching for something, this edge right here, you might feel it if you're in a rush and you're grabbing some keys, something like that. It's not as smoothed out as other knives that you know, I've carried, and it's something that not every reviewer brings up, and a lot of times because not every reviewer carries the knives that they're showcasing, but it's something that I do consider. So you know, when you come down, if you come down here, it's not a big issue, but if you do catch on this corner, it can be, I mean, not sharp to where, you know, you're going to be drawing blood or anything, but it can be a little bit uncomfortable, right? When you're trying to draw something out of your pocket, reach for your keys, your chapstick, whatever it might be, flashlight, you're reaching down to the bottom, and then that's kind of coming into contact with the side of your hand. So if this was a little bit more rounded, I don't think it would affect the aesthetic. I don't think it would hurt it if this was just had a bit more of a rounded edge there, a little bit more broken. And then in terms of even the roll here, where you can see it's a little bit more rolled on this surface versus on this angle, you can see the axis is a little bit flatter, so there's a little bit more of an edge, not a sharp edge, but just a bit of a harder edge, which, you know, of course, in terms of craftsmanship, you want that sharpness, you want, you know, you don't want it to be soft, but you also, from an ergonomic standpoint, it would be nice to have a bit of a chamfer or a bevel right here, just softening this up, and then within this transition, just softening that up a bit too, and I don't think it would take away, again, from the visual aesthetic. So, model variants. These are done in really small batch options. So in terms of that, options are very limited. So definitely check for availability. I'll leave a link down in the description there, and you can also do a Google search in terms of finding other vendors that might have some inventory. If these are sold out, you kind of go batch to batch. I would recommend following them on Instagram. Signing up for any types of newsletters or anything, so you can get better word there. In terms of comparable options, you guys saw I shared a couple of comparable ones, right? Benchmade, Bug Out, Spyderco Delica, stuff like that within that EDC space. Just kind of a great everyday utility knife. They're great. And then if you think of something, let's say, that is in terms of its background, right, its pedigree being, hey, machined in the US and all that, and, fully done, and, not needing any types of aftermarket scales or anything like that, I would say you could compare this to something like, let's say, a Tactile Knife Company Rockwall. Of course, that's going to be a much thinner, more stick-like profile, but overall the length is going to be very similar. But this is, of course, is going to fill the hand a lot nicer because of just that little girth there at this axis. When you look at it, a little wider. It's not just the wider blade, but the handle itself. You get that width, which means holding it is just going to be that much nicer in hand. So for me, guys, bottom line, the TRM Neutron 2 or the N2, it's a sweet EDC blade. I mean, it's nearly perfect. And it's not far off from perfection. And some of the things that I would say they're not even, not deal breakers, or as Nick Shabazz would say, but they are a deal. I would say, they could be very subjective. Some people might really like the different ratios on this pocket clip. They might like the, some of the edges that I would like to maybe be softened. They might like that harder edge just in terms of the aesthetic. So, yeah, this thing's really nice. I'm very impressed. And I think if you're somebody who can appreciate simplicity and functionality in your daily cutting tool, this pocket knife is just great for knife lovers and collectors who they pay attention to those finer details, and aren't looking just for the next hype drop, right? It's one of those ones where, again, if you know, it's kind of a connoisseur thing, right? If you know about the value Seiko brings into the watch game, hey, you see it and it's exciting. If you know about TRM and everything that they do, yeah, it's exciting. Made in the USA proudly, guys. Again, even using a US steel, which they didn't have to do. Some people will use Bowler steel, right? Sandvik steel. So there's so many different types of options that are out there, and this is a good one. I gotta say, like, it's worth trying to get on a list, trying to figure out and add to cart. It's not going to be by any means a letdown in terms of the investment, right? You want that ROI, return on investment of your time trying to track one of these beauties down. I will say you will be pleasantly surprised and definitely satisfied by how nice of a pocket knife this is. So with all that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do it like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe for more content just like this. Ooh, thanks guys.